Kunpu ya yurume no fuku no hira to.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if you know what the hira onomatopoeia means or represents or like what it envisions or invokes, I guess. But it's kind of like the flapping like of a flag or
Right.
um like the kind of like on your clothes.
Mhm.
And so this the kumpun is like a haru no kaze kind of thing,
Right.
right? The kaze that you feel in haru that brings the smell of blooming plants and
Mm.
fresh leaves and stuff. And this was something that I wrote when literally I just walked outside. The wind was
Mm.
strong. It smelled nice, and my clothes were flapping in the wind like waves.
Rose of old Japan, I'm coming back to you. There in old Japan, you'll make my dreams come true.
And welcome back to the Nihon no Madoguchi Podcast with your host Domo and
Marty, what's up, everyone? Domo, what's up? Long time no see, actually. Quite a week, right?
it's actually been a little bit of time.
Mm.
We haven't been recording any episodes back to back recently, so it's actually been a little bit of time since I last saw you.
Yeah.
How you been?
Quite good, quite good. So we will cut the weather talk very short, but just an info.
Sure.
4 days ago in Paris, it was 14 degrees, and in 24 hours, we went from 14 degrees to 35 degrees with an atmosphere thing called canicule, which means that there is no difference between temperatures in during the day and during the night. So in 24
Oh,
hours, we went from deep winter to deep summer out of the blue. So what
that's
the hell?
insane.
What the
we
hell?
just we just recently got our first 30-degree day here in
Oh,
Japan, or at
hmm,
least in Saga. I know in Tokyo it's a different story, but
right.
down here it's a little bit cooler, I guess.
Hmm,
And we had our first 30-degree day a couple days ago, and it's been raining the last couple days, so it's been a little cooler.
nice.
I mean cooler relatively speaking. It's
Hmm,
still late 20s, 25, 26,
right.
but it's just raining out. And I think that's what do you want to call it, a bad sign for what's about to come here in
Oh,
June.
oh, oh, oh,
Because they do have the rainy season.
oh, oh,
I
oh.
don't like that it was raining 2 3 days in a row, but
Hmm.
I can see this rainy season is gonna be a long one.
Oh,
it's
damn.
already begun.
Oh, damn. Good luck to everyone in Japan for this long rainy season, and especially for the hyper hot weather that will come after the rainy season. So,
Uh,
good luck to all of you that you are listening from Japan.
Japanese summer, and then summer's gonna go for like 6 months, and then we're not gonna get a fall,
I
maybe
love it.
2 or 3
I love
weeks,
it.
and
I love
then
it.
the winter.
I love it.
It's insane.
I
Oh my
the only
goodness.
person that loves Japanese summer, so for me it's a good
Yeah,
thing.
that's
I love
true.
it. Anyway, speaking of summer,
Yeah,
speaking of weather, speaking of how's the weather today, I think that is a good segue
I like that.
to
I
today's
like that.
topic, don't you think?
I like that. Indeed, indeed. So as I mentioned in the previous episode, it was the Japanese episode. Um, but Marty, he did his kind of lesson on the first, Banpaku, the first kind of like was it international exhibition. What does Banpaku mean again? I forgot
The
English
International Exposition, I think it's translated
exposition.
as
Ah, okay, okay.
in
Yeah,
English, and it was specifically the first time that Japan participated to one of these events, and all the things that are related to that. But
indeed.
if you can speak Japanese, I highly recommend you to go check it out. If you don't speak Japanese, check it out. It would be a good
Check it out
practice.
anyway. Turn on translate, auto translate. I think we have auto captions at the
Yeah,
maybe I don't know,
I don't know. I don't
but
know.
yeah. So Marty did his lesson, so I'm following up, and I'm going to do my lesson today. And my lesson is about haiku.
Ooh.
Now haiku is something that I imagine everyone has heard of. You've probably even written one, in your many years of life, however old you guys are. And a haiku is a Japanese poem, a Japanese, style poem, but it has spread all around the world and it's been written in many different languages. And but today we're gonna be talking about how to write a Japanese haiku. And kind of before we get into actually how to make a haiku and what a haiku is, I'm gonna touch on a bit of the history of haiku, how it kind of came to be in the what they call the four great haiku poets in haiku history. So, and I'm just gonna start us off real quick with a question. Marty, when you hear haiku,
Right.
who's the first person you think of?
I would say Matsuo Basho. You said, like, now you surprised me because you said four great poets. I know only one. So looking forward to your explanation, actually.
When I also was learning about the history of haiku, I had not heard of the other three either. So it's nothing to be surprised about. Matsuo Basho is the greatest haiku poet. Period. That is what he's known for. He's the one who made haiku kind of what it is today. And he created the type of haiku that we still create today. Let's put it like that. And so with him as like the central figure of haiku, my talk will be covering pre Matsuo Basho and post Matsuo Basho. Right, and it'll be quick. I won't be going too deep in the weeds, because I'll have to get to the how to make the haiku part as well. So let's get started. So another question, Marty.
Nice.
Haiku. The first haiku. When do you think that was written?
I may have read something about it.
Uh-oh.
So you're saying this with the knowledge that they were doing haiku, or are you referring to the first haiku without it being recognized as haiku?
The second one.
Then I would say probably during the Heian period. Isn't it like something like the Isse Monogatari or something like that? I'm not sure.
No, that's a great guess. That's a great guess. Long story short, we don't know.
Okay. I mean, yes, because it was not recognized as such, so it's not like someone said, "I do a haiku."
But the first haiku-like poem that was found was in the Kamakura period, and it was 1235. I won't write it down here. I'll just say it. I'll just say it out loud. This naru hana o oikakete yuku arashi nari. And it was written by Fujiwara no Teika.
Of course, he's a Fujiwara.
And so a Fujiwara indeed, yes. But right, that was the first haiku-like kind of poem that was discovered. But as Marty had eloquently put, in the Heian period, we have what do you call waka, and waka are like just literally is Japanese poetry. And within waka, you have something called tanka. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with tanka, but waka and tanka, they appear in the Kojiki, in the Manyoshu, which were written in late Nara, early Heian, 700, 8th century Japan. So you're not far off, right? Nara is not Heian is included in that period, and within Tanka, so haiku is 575, right, in terms of syllables, right?
Yes.
Do you know what syllables comprise of a tanka?
Sorry, I didn't get your question actually. But
Oh,
how
do
the
you?
tanka is formed? How many? How
So yeah,
many?
like how many syllables do you need for a tanka? Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. So I know that I'm not sure if I'm spoiling what you're about to say, but I
No,
know
no,
that
no. Go ahead. Go
haiku
ahead. Yeah.
haiku was born like as a chunk of tanka. So basically, there is tanka is a longer version, and haiku is only like the bottom part of a tanka, if I remember
Mm.
correctly. But you will explain this probably better. But to answer your question, I have no idea. I know that there is it's more than haiku. I know it's
It
more
is.
than
It is
haiku.
pretty much. Just yeah, for you guys who aren't aware of what a tanka is, just imagine that it's a longer haiku.
Hmm.
And you were close, Marty. You were real close because tanka, the syllables that make up a tanka are 57577. And
So it's the
so
top
it comes at
part.
the beginning. Yeah.
なるほどな。
And and so how do I want to say this? You have the 575 and then the 77, and tanka were usually written by two people. Right? So you have one person that writes the 575 part that starts off the poem, and then someone's basically responding to that with their own, 7-7 part of the poem. And that 575 part was known as the hokku, the leading sentence, leading poem, and it was usually written by the most senior poet. And so right from tanka you also have something called a renga. And I imagine you probably heard of renga before. For those who aren't aware of what a renga is, it is, just imagine a super long tanka, because it's just a tanka with with hundreds of lines.
Wow.
So the most senior poet writes the hokku, and then everyone starts adding on their own lines, and it just keeps going infinitely, essentially. I don't say infinitely. It does end, but it just keeps going for a long time. And within Renga, you have higher Renga and lower Renga. In the lower Renga, we're called Haikai no Renga. That's where you get that high from. That's where the high comes from. It's the same high. And Haikai no Renga they're called lower because they weren't like the highbrow, serious poems. They were more kind of witty and clever and punny, right? They were doing a lot of like word association and things like that. And from the haikai, we do get like taking the high from the haikai and the ku, we do get haiku, but that doesn't come until way later, which I'll explain here momentarily.
Right.
But the first haiku, aside from the one that I just mentioned to you, that was written by one of the Fujiwaras, there's another one written by a man named Arakira Moritake. This is known as the first true haiku.
I see.
Even though it's not a good one, apparently. I don't know how to judge whether a haiku is good or not, but most people
Say it's not a good
say,
one.
just based on the rules and standards of haiku, it's not a great one.
I mean,
I'll just say it here.
I guess
Yeah.
if it was the best haiku ever written, that would have killed the practice altogether, because if you start already and
I mean, maybe.
dish out the best line ever, then people wouldn't.
I mean, you would think so, but when I get to Matsuo Basho's part,
Let's see.
you'll see, like, so right, his haiku was Raka eda ni kaeru to mireba kocho kana. Not sure how to translate that. So we're just gonna keep moving on. I was gonna originally translate it, but don't have too much time, and I need to get through 4 people.
It's not a good one anyway, so no need
It is
to
not a
focus
good
on
one
it.
anyway. So if you guys want to know about it, look it up.
Google it.
So that was pre Matsuo Basho
Right.
haiku history. Now we're at Matsuo Basho,
the big
and
man.
Matsuo Basho and the other 3 haiku poets, they were all born in the Edo period.
Mm.
So, and the last one was, it was like Giri Giri Edo. He was born in 1867.
Ah,
Literally,
very
like
giddy giddy.
one,
Very
like
giddy giddy.
literally, very Giri Giri Edo period. But all four of the most legendary haiku poets were all born in the Edo period, which is just a cool piece of trivia.
Nice.
So Matsuo Basho, his real name is Matsuo Kinsaku. Didn't know that.
Right.
But I saw obviously Matsuo Basho is his kind of alias that he goes when he writes haiku, and he gets that alias from when he goes out. He starts his own like school for haiku.
Mm-hmm.
One of his disciples builds him a hut
Mm.
made out of banana plants, which are called basho in Japanese.
Mm.
And so that plant, that little hut of banana plants,
Uh-huh.
was a place for them to like meet, and discuss haiku, write haiku, and just and be intellectual, I guess. So he he ended up taking that, the literally Sono Mama,
Mm-hmm.
literally as his alias, and now he became Matsuo Basho. Now I can't get too deep in the weeds here. I did do a lot of research to kind of provide to you guys, but I realized not a lot of time, so we're just gonna keep going.
Skip.
So Matsuo Basho started writing haiku apparently when he was 19.
Mm-hmm.
Opened his own school when he was 30.
Right.
But up until this point, he he was quite what we would say well, I guess what they would say back then, worldly. He
Mm.
was he was living his life with amongst the regular people, trying to make a living, had a school, had disciples, this, that, and the other. And you can tell that from the type of haiku he was writing at the time.
Mm.
One of the haiku that he wrote was Geniya Ki Maguchi Senki no Tori Cho. Uh, and I do have the English translation for this one because apparently it's a good one. Um, so the beautiful moon, the frontage worth 1,000 pieces of gold in Toricho. And apparently this was like a play on another famous poem from a Chinese poet
Mm.
that was talking about how um, a spring day is worth 1,000 gold. And
Right.
he was and he compared that to Toricho, which was the shopping district in Nihonbashi in Edo at the
Mm-hmm.
time, which was the most which a lot of money came flowing through, and also had very high land prices and things like that. So it was kind of like he was being punny, right, and clever there, as the standard of like the haikai haikai no renga, right. And but what really changed Matsuo Basho from the worldly man to the haiku god that we know
Mm-hmm.
today was his pursuit in Zen Buddhism. When
Mm.
he was 38, he decided, I want to get away from it all, and I'm gonna follow a Buddhist monk, a Zen Buddhist monk, and learn about Zen Buddhism and whatnot. And so he started traveling all over Japan
Right.
and writing books, or not books, but writing haiku essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Now he did have travel logs. This being one of them, Oku no Hosomichi.
逆だよ。
I don't know if you
逆だよ。逆。
get Oku no Hosomichi.
This is the big one, right? Like
And
it's most famous by him, right?
it is the most famous one. I think so. And what's crazy is this was supposed to. I bought this like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to come last Sunday, but it came today.
Oh,
So
lucky,
I actually haven't
lucky.
haven't gotten to read it.
Unboxing
And so
soon on
he
Madoguchi Podcast.
one day, right? So he's going around writing all these haiku, and you see a clear and stark difference in the haiku that he wrote when before he became like he didn't become a monk, but before he started practicing
Right.
seriously practicing Zen Buddhism, and after he started practicing Zen
Mm.
Buddhism. And he has and this will probably be the last thing I mention before I move on to the next couple of people, because gotta keep moving. Um, in his late 40s, so this is after he starts his pursuit in Zen Buddhism, and he's actually quite famous now. He was already quite famous before
Mm-hmm.
he started on this pursuit, but nowhere near what he is now. And now he's on that rise. And this is what he wrote. There was a time when I envied those who had government offices or impressive domains, and on another occasion, I considered entering the precincts of the Buddha and the teaching rooms of the patriarchs. Instead, I've worn out my body in journeys that are as aimless as the wind and clouds, and expended my feelings on flowers and birds. But somehow I've been able to make a living this way. And so in the end, unskilled and talentless as I am, I give myself wholly to this one concern, poetry. And
Nice.
I was like, all right, okay, Mr. Basho. He literally spent his whole later half of his life because he died when he was 50, I think.
Right.
So this is late 40s when he wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
He spent the rest of his life on this pursuit of perfecting you know this very small tiny poem that you is very limited in terms of what you can express. And like he goes from the worldly kind of like poems to the more kind of like, and I don't say esoteric, more focusing on nature, focusing on one's feelings
Introspective,
and the
you would
work
say.
in nature as a whole. Yeah, exactly. So that's in those poems that he wrote after he started like traveling and started his pursuit in Zen Buddhism, were the types of those became the standard for haiku to come after that. All right, we'll stop it right there for Matsuo Basho. Now on to the next person. We have a guy named Yosa Buson, and Yosa Buson, he comes I think about 30 or 40 years after Matsuo Basho.
Right.
And or maybe a little bit earlier. And so Matsuo Basho dies. Yosa Buson comes in. We don't know actually much about him except for the fact that he revived or tried to revive Matsuo Basho's kind of like writing poetry style, but he never got to his level. Now, I personally like Yosa Buson more than
Better, you would say.
I guess more than Matsuo Basho, because he was an artist. He was equally as famous as an artist as he was as a haiku poet. And so a lot of his haikus are very artistic in the sense that he's describing a lot of things. How do I explain this? He takes a scene, he cuts it, and he uses a lot of like onomatopoeia to kind of evoke the sound that you
Interesting.
would see normally with your eyes in a painting, right? And I really like that because that's more of the type of kind of haiku that I like to write. Take that like one scene and try to invoke it. I mean, that's what all haiku essentially try to do. You want to take a scene and explain that to someone who can't see it, right? In 17 syllables.
Makes me think
Right.
of how much creativity. Sorry, it's a very short segue,
Yeah, no,
but
go ahead. Yeah, please.
how much creativity there was in human beings before they had access to photography. Let's not talk about the phone because it is a dead giveaway of our attention span and overall
Yeah.
creativity. But even the fact that they lived in a world where there was no picture, you could not take your camera and just and take it down. So they came up with very interesting and creative way to I like this picture, I like this scenery, I want to immortalize it. How can I do it? I do it through poetry, which is one would say that's a long shot. I mean, you could take a drawing or you could describe it, but deciding to doing through poetry, man, human beings are fascinating. And that's all for my quick intervention.
No, I agree. I mean, at the time, that's all they had, right? Obviously, you could draw, but if you can't draw, how else are you going to explain it? Through a haiku. And like I said, I liked Buson so much, I bought his book as well.
Oh, nice.
So this is a collection of 1,000 of his poems. in the most famous of his poems, I don't know if you can see it. It might not.
Slightly blurry.
It's this. Yeah, it might be
Haru
blurry.
Haru no Umi.
Oh,
Too
Haruno
blurry.
Umi. Yep.
Yeah, too blurry. I don't see it.
Okay. No way. So Haruno Umi, Kinemosu no Tari no Tari kana. Which kind of it's literally just painting an image of literally the Haruno Umi, the ocean in the spring. Now Hinemosu means ichinichiju, right? All day.
Right.
It's the old way of saying ichinichiju. And then notari is just kind of like the coming and going, peacefully. And so he's just kind of invoking the ocean, and it does all day just come and go. And I mean, whether it's spring or not, it doesn't really matter. But when you use the Haru no Umi, you can that gives you information about the scene. If it's Haru no Umi, it's probably a little bit warm, right? Because it's starting to warm up. There's probably I don't know if jellyfish start coming out in Haru. I don't know. I don't know much about the Umi and Haru, but there are probably people who do know a lot about the Umi and the spring ocean. Right, people who live near the ocean, who go to the ocean all the time. And that's the thing about haiku. Haiku require a lot of knowledge a lot of times. Now, they always say there's no right way to interpret a poem. However, there's probably a way that the poet intended it to be interpreted.
Right.
So, having a lot of background knowledge about a lot of different topics helps you be able to pick up on those little nuances that others might not be able to get.
Right.
I'm still lacking, a lot of information about a lot of stuff, right? I don't know much about the ocean in spring. I don't know much about the ocean in general, right? But so I can only just imagine an ocean. It's like a sunny sky, maybe no clouds in the sky, and I hear the ocean, right? Kind of like you try to imagine it. And that's what it's supposed to do. And I really like that. I like what he did there. But enough with that. Let's go on to the next guy. The next guy, he is known as the most beloved haiku poet amongst the four because he's just a regular guy. He wasn't famous. He was just a regular guy who had a terrible life. It was quite bad. Yeah, it was quite bad. His mother died when he was really young. His stepmother didn't like him. When his parents died, he had to fight decades over inheritance with his siblings.
Cinderella.
And he didn't and he didn't have and he didn't have a permanent house until he was 50 or something like that.
Damn.
And so and through all of that, he got married, had kids, and his wife and kids also died before he did.
Poor bro.
So a lot of his poems are very sad.
Understandably so.
Not all of them. He also has like the capacity to feel like a wide variety of emotions because of the stuff he had been through. And he also has a lot of funny haikus as well. He does a little bit of the comical, the punny stuff as well. Which is obviously completely different than what the other two were doing. But the reason people like him is because he's relatable. He's the regular guy who was living a hard life. And technically, his haikus may not be the greatest especially in terms compared to the other two.
Right.
But he wrote 20,000 haiku. And maybe out of those 20,000, maybe a couple of hundred are like really good.
Right.
And in comparison, Matsuo Basho wrote 2,000-ish haiku. Just comparison. He wrote 10 times more than Basho, right? So now a majority of those were not great according to, modern haiku standards, but it is what it is. Regular guy, lived a bad life, but he was able to show empathy. His whole thing with his whole style of haiku is he liked to really talk about animals and write haiku from the perspective of little animals and bugs and things like that. It's quite interesting guy. I recommend you guys check him out. And the last guy, maybe arguably
What's the name of the beloved? I think.
Did I not say his name?
No, I don't think for the beloved one.
Damn, I'm sorry, you guys. His name is Kobayashi Issa.
No, you didn't say it, but yes,
I
well
did not say
noted. Kobayashi Issa, the normal guy.
Kobayashi Issa.
He's so
Thank you.
normal that
Normal
he
guy.
didn't deserve
Issa.
to be
I
named
just
properly.
I completely skipped this. I said it in my mind. I promise. I said
Right,
it in
no
my
issue.
mind. Kobayashi Issa. No, thank you for
It adds on
letting
the
me know because I would have
poor
just kept
life of the
going.
guy.
I'm sorry, Issa. I promise. I'm sorry. And then our final guy,
Right.
arguably, probably not as famous, but just up there with Matsuo Basho,
Right.
a guy named Masaoka Shiki. And Shiki is the person who coins the term haiku. And this is late, literally last year Edo, early Meiji, right, when this is happening.
Right.
And
So you would
when
say
he coins this thing.
that the codification of haiku in this, like, this is a haiku, the fact that they've created that word is actually a modern thing, like a Meiji period. So
It is
it's
a modern
thing. Interesting.
Indeed, indubitably, because this is after he coins this term. This is when it starts to spread out into the world, because he was a haiku poet, but he was most known as a critic, just of like literature and things like that, and poetry. And he actually said Matsuo Basho. He didn't say he was trash, but he was like, I don't see what the hype is about. I don't know why you guys are like, because Matsuo Basho was deified 100 years after he died.
The first dissing of haiku history came to be. So the guy created the word haiku just to diss Matsuo Basho.
He dissed him, and then he took it back a little bit. He like later on, he was like, okay, I'll retract my statements. Maybe he's not that bad, but we don't need to worship him just because he's old, or worship old things just because they're old. He also lived a terrible life.
Of course,
a life ridden with disease, tuberculosis. And so he died in his 30s. But during, like, in his short life, he did so much. And I would say, because gotta get on to the next topic. The most noteworthy thing that he didn't really even create it, I don't think. One of his disciples created it. Was a haiku magazine called Hototogisu. And it's still in publication today. And it's still and it's his I'm actually thinking about subscribing to it, not gonna lie to you. But he wrote, or his disciple made the magazine to showcase real haiku, because that was his whole thing.
I see.
Like, what they were doing in the past, that wasn't real haiku.
That's trash.
What I'm doing now is real haiku, right? You know, you gotta and so, I mean, and from that point, you start to see like a splits in the haiku like world. Yeah,
it kind of segues, make me think of how the arts evolved in the same period in Europe, where, like, they were the big classics, and then they came the new guys like Van Gogh and Monet, and they were saying, we don't do these things, we do more passionate stuff, and then you have also all these schools, Dadaism and Impressionism, Expressionism, and yada yada, that they kind of wanted to break the codes of art. It feels like this critic also wanted to break the codes that were kind of fossilizing in the time. But at least that's I
think that's true.
Feels from what you're saying. Yeah,
right. Absolutely correct. And this from this point, right, when he establishes haiku not as something that's a part of a tanka or a renga, as its own standalone poem,
right?
This is where you start to see it spread, out into the world, and you start seeing people get experimental with haiku, and right, there are haiku, there are even Japanese haiku that aren't 17 syllables, right? There was one, I don't remember who wrote it, but it was like Seki o shitemo hitori. And that's the whole poem. And that's considered a haiku. All right, okay, cool. We're starting to we're trying to get experimental out here. We're getting experimental. I love it. But from this point on, right? This is where you really start to see haiku kind of evolve from what it was to what we kind of know it as today. And
Interesting.
what Matsuo Basho
Mm-hmm.
like to what do you want to say? I don't want to say preach, but like to kind of talk about
Mm-hmm.
um in the past when he, kind of switched from the worldly haiku to the more kind of like um nature focused haiku, let's say it like that.
Right.
He he I don't know if he coined this term. There's a Yojijuku go, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure it's Fueki Ryuko, which talks about remaining talks about making changes within something that is unchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
So haiku was that one thing that was always like kind of the same since Basho's era,
Right.
right? There's been little people who've added their own little touches here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but overall has remained quite the same until you get to Shiki.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to see kind of people going off, going crazy, making
Mm-hmm.
all kind of crazy haiku that aren't haiku that don't have the elements of what we would consider or what you need for it to be called a haiku. Um, and that's okay. Just because it doesn't have those elements doesn't mean that it's not a haiku. However, what we're going to talk about here in the second part, sorry for the long history lesson, is how to make a haiku. And we're going to talk about the standard way of how
Right.
to make a haiku.
Back with the second part, where Domo is explaining to us how to make an haiku.
All right, you guys. So I'm going to kind of speed through this real quick. I'm not going to have Marty make a haiku or anything.
That would take more than a couple
per
of
se.
episodes,
Yeah,
probably.
but I'm going to explain to you guys how to make a haiku. But first, I want to talk to you about the types of technical
Technical
difficulties.
difficulties.
And we're back.
And we're
Sorry
back.
about that. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. So I'm gonna teach you guys about the different types of haiku. Now I've mentioned this. I've probably mentioned this before in a previous episode. There's two types of haiku:
Mm-hmm.
toriawase and ichibutsu shitate. And the difference between the two essentially is toriawase. You're comparing two completely unrelated things
Mm-hmm.
and making a poem out of them. Whereas ichibushtate is you're focusing on one topic, one object, one thing, and you're writing the poem about that thing. Now, a very a I don't say this, a very kind of easy way to visualize this is the 36 views of Mount Fuji.
Right.
So I know Marty here is probably very very well
Acquainted, yes.
versed, acquainted with it. So an example of ichibutsu shitate. There's one thing, you're focused on the one thing, and you're gonna describe this one thing. It would be, I think it was the second painting,
Mm-hmm.
the second
Station. Second
like this
station.
thing in
Yeah.
the it's this one here.
Oh, very famous one, yes.
It is the fine wind, clear morning, gai fusei kaisei.
Mm-hmm.
And in this picture, there's nothing but Mount Fuji and then some clouds here, right?
Right.
Mount Fuji is the main object in this painting,
Yes.
and he might want you to look at the clouds as well,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not really the focus here, right? The focus here is Mount Fuji,
Mm-hmm.
and if someone asked you to describe this painting, you would be like, okay, it's Mount Fuji red. Most of your description would go here,
Right.
and then maybe some kind of like clouds in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be like ichibutsu shitate. Now, for toriawase, which is also called nibutsu shototsu だったかな? Shototsu. Let's go shototsu. We have this one here, obviously a very famous poem,
Another one.
and not poem, painting or artwork.
Prints.
Here you have two items. Obviously, these are the 36 views of Fuji,
Right.
but Fuji here is quite small in the background, whereas the waves are more prominent here.
Yes.
Right. So this would be something like a nibutsu shitate. You have two items, clear different items in the painting, in the poem,
Right.
that are seemingly unrelated, right?
Hmm.
And you somehow are tying a connection to them in the poem. Another example of a nibutsu show, toriawase, let's just say toriawase, would be this here.
Hmm.
This might not be as famous. Maybe Marty knows.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the Manenbashi.
Hmm.
And Mount Fuji is in the back here.
Very little, yes, indeed.
Very little, very little. Obviously, the hashi is the main thing here, right? But you have the hashi, and obviously Fuji's in there because it's the 36 views of Fuji, Mount Fuji, and you're kind of comparing and contrasting these. This is I think this bridge was drawn like in an exaggerated fashion to kind of resemble a mountain kind of shape,
Right.
kind of like this. It's not pointy, but it kind of resembled the Mount Fuji in the back. I'm not an art connoisseur. I don't know
But they did
what
have
was yeah thing. Yeah.
they did have some arced bridges as well
Oh, did
because
they?
of
Okay.
because they used it to go through it by boat. So if it is a
Makes
flat
sense.
one, then you may
Yeah.
Butskari.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we are not here to talk about bridges today.
No, but I'm glad you told. I didn't know that. No, good to know. I got told. But if like looking at those paintings, you can probably get a clear kind of idea of what the difference between the two types
Yes,
of poems are.
definitely.
And the easiest one to write would be the toriawase, because you're writing. You'll have like your two objects, and then you just literally smush them together.
Right.
And for the ichibutsu shitate, you have to take one item and kind of describe it without explaining it, because that's a no-no in haiku. You don't explain things. You get rid of any unnecessary or obvious information and leave the rest up to the reader, right? So for those types of haikus, right, those are the two types of haikus. Now, to write a haiku, what do you need? What is necessary to complete a haiku? To have something that's called a haiku, traditionally speaking, anyway, because there's a whole bunch of new age stuff that's going on, right?
Right.
Your haiku needs to be 5, 7, 5
Sure.
in terms of
Yes.
syllables.
Yes.
5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. It needs to have a kireji, or a kire rather, and a kigo, which is a seasonal word.
Yes.
The kireji is a cutoff particle or cutoff word. And if you have those three elements, by golly, you got yourself a haiku.
Legally speaking, it is a haiku.
Legally speaking, that's all you need really to make a haiku. And for you guys here today, I want to teach you how to start with making like your very first haiku.
Nice.
And it's called the Tanoshi haiku. So in this haiku, what you'll do is you'll take your at the last 5 syllables, at the tanoshi na haiku. The last 5 syllables will be tanoshi na. Now, I literally just said, I didn't say it, but I need to say it here now. We don't explain things. You don't tell the reader how you feel. You let the reader
understand
feel
it.
Understand how you feel through the word, through your words, and through your not your explanation, through your description of the scene, right? You don't explicitly tell them anything,
right?
And so we're gonna use Tanoshi na right now as a placeholder, but you're gonna use that as kind of like a way to kind of build your poem in a sense, right? So you want to think of something that was Tanoshi, right? What's something that happened in your life that was Tanoshi, right? I wrote down an example here. I don't know, right? So say you were walking home from school and you walked by a water park, right? Walk by a water park and you're looking at the kids play, but you can't go in. you're gonna get wet. Tanoshi na. And so it's rather than it actually you doing something and it's tanoshi, but it's more like you wish you could join kind of tanoshi na.
I see,
And then you would take that, so you say kaeri michi. Koen de asobu tanoshi na. And then now that you have your first 12 syllables and your tanoshi na, you're gonna get rid of that tanoshi na. We don't explicitly mention how we feel. That's not masculine. But you're gonna replace those last 5 syllables with a seasonal word. So if this was in the spring, you'll find a spring seasonal word. If this was in the fall seasonal word, so on and so forth. And where can you find these seasonal words? Well, we live in the age of information. You can find it online, but I recommend getting a saijiki. So it has not all of them.
That's
but
way thicker than I expected.
It has 8,000 seasonal words in here.
Oh my god.
And they're corresponding in like 3 like haiku for each one. And so imagine this is spring because people are playing in the water at the water park, and you're like, okay, right? You did the kaeri michi koen to asobu, koen de asobu, and then you hit them with a haru no yoi, right? Haru no yoi, which would invoke the image of the sun setting. Is starting to get kind of like kind of orange out. You're walking home, you see people at the park splashing, having a great time, but you can't go because you're going home from school and you got your school uniform on. You can't get it wet. This, that, and the other. Now that's not a good haiku. That was just me just coming off with something off the fly. Right. That's not a good. I don't think that was a good haiku poem, but that would be how you could start making your first haiku. Right. Remember the 5-7-5. Make sure you have a seasonal word and a kireji. Now the kireji usually is a ya. It's you literally ya. Let me see if I can find one that has a ya, because I have a few poems myself that I've written.
Nice.
Okay, I wrote one for Mother's Day. Lovely. And this uses the ya kireji. So the ya kireji, just for like to explain, it literally shifts the image, because they say haiku is supposed to be like a movie playing in your head, like an easel.
Yes.
So once you throw a ya in there, whatever was said up until that point switches to whatever's coming next.
It's a cutscene. So you cut in between two scenes.
In between two scenes, right? And so for this, I have a haiku techo, right? I've been writing out my haiku. Haha no hiya. So you think about haha no hi, boom. But tabako no niyou, haha no yubi. And my mom
smokes a lot.
Smoked a lot of cigarettes back in the day. She doesn't really smoke anymore, but whenever her hands would get close to my face, I could smell the tobacco on her fingers, like the smell of tobacco. So like if she wanted to like touch my hair and like rub my face or something, I could smell that. Yeah. And so that was, so it's supposed to. I just explained it to you, but if if you just read it, you would be like, okay, haha no hi. Her fingers smell like tobacco, so she probably smokes a lot.
Right.
And then, whatever else it makes you think of at that point. And so usually you can use a kireji to kind of like switch the scene, but you don't have to have a actual ya or something like that in there. You can use what they call I don't know what it's called in English actually, but you can just do the cut with just like a noun. Or a noun phrase.
Right.
So kaeri michi. right? That is the michi that you use to kaeru.
Mm-hmm.
That can be your kide. And then you switch to the koen de asobu,
なるほど。
right? Boom.
Right.
Haru no yoi, right? And so now again, that was not a great haiku. You guys don't use that. But that's kind of the idea, right? Start
Interesting.
off with some type of
Wow.
emotion. You can do kanashi na, you can do ureshi na,
Mm-hmm.
and then come up with something that made you ureshi, and then change the ureshi na to a
Mm.
seasonal word. And
Interesting.
yeah, that's that like just to get started, because haiku it can get very
I mean,
complicated.
it's already way deeper than what I expected. I know that the haiku was a thing, but I did not expect to be that deep. And now I think we have barely scratched the surface level of what haiku can be. So
I mean,
very very
we can definitely
interesting.
do a part two. We can definitely do a
No, no,
part
no.
two.
I don't know if there is material, but the whole word. I mean, I guess with everything that's true, but I never thought that
It's true.
haiku
Yeah,
was so deep. And well, you almost got me
yeah.
interesting into into doing haiku myself. As
You
aside
you
of
should write a
I
haiku.
I I I don't have a feeling for poetry at all, like in general, not only related to
I
haiku.
see. I see.
But the sole fact that you give me interest in haiku and in poetry, that is amazing. Like I mean, haiku is amazing on its own, but you also did a very good job, I think, in explaining to us the miryoku, the interest
Oh,
of haiku. I mean, that's my perspective. I don't know if any viewers that felt the same can write in the comments.
I
Maybe
hope so.
I have one last question for you, given the timing as
Sure.
well. But do you have
Yeah.
any haiku that you have wrote yourself at end that's, I wouldn't say you're satisfied, but that you feel like sharing? Like, this one, I'm mildly proud of this
Sure.
one. If you have any.
Sure. Proud. We'll see. But I'll share one that I've written that I like, and then one that I like that was written by someone else.
Lovely.
And so I guess I would say, okay. This one was really good. Personally, I think. Pumpu ya yurume no fuku no hira to. And so I don't know if you know what the hira onomatopoeia means or represents, or like what it envisions or invokes, I guess. But it's kind of like the flapping like of a flag, or
Right.
like the kind of like on your clothes. And so the kumpun is like a haru no kaze kind of thing, right? The kaze that you feel in haru, that brings the smell of blooming plants and fresh leaves and stuff. And this was something that I wrote when I literally I just walked outside. The wind was strong. It smelled nice, and my clothes were flapping in the wind like waves.
Nice.
And so, originally I had put nami ga tatsu, right? Like waves, literally like on my clothes. But someone had corrected me and said you should probably instead of explaining that it's like waves, just say hirato, which is a way that waves are expressed in onomatopoeia, as well as like the kind of like flowing of your clothes in the flag. So you kind of do that without actually saying waves. And I was like, okay, I like that.
Good
I
idea.
like that. I enjoyed that. And it's literally just like coming up with like ways to express things that you experience in your daily life, right? Now, to end us off, there's a haiku that I like that really, I mean, I probably won't share that one here, but there's one written by a guy named Yamazaki. What was it? It was Soulkan. Quite a famous haiku poet himself.
Right.
And it goes skinny eo skinny. It's not a. I forgot how to read it. Tsukini eo. Oh, okay, it is right. Okay, tsukini eo. Sashitaraba yoki yoki sensu kana uchiwa.
Mhm.
Sorry, not saying uchiwa kana
Oh.
yoki uchiwa kana. And so the e is like a handle.
Mm.
So if you stick a handle in the moon,
It would make a
it becomes a
nice.
yoki uchiwa. A very nice. I was like, oh,
Wow.
that's I like that. I don't know.
Nice.
I was like, I've never I've never thought about
The
that. And then now you
creativity.
say it now. I can only see the moon as a uchiwa now.
No,
Like
of course.
it's
No. That's lovely.
and so it's kind of being able to find those things in normal
Mm.
everyday things that we see every day that other people might not have like realized or
Right.
recognized or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, that's crazy. So like seeing something like that, because it's quite simple, right? I was
Yeah.
like, I could probably have written this, right?
Mm.
You know, I was like, okay, maybe I can get good enough, and make a good haiku myself. So
Nice.
I'm striving to really get good at haiku. Like I said, I have the haiku techo.
Mm-hmm.
I just bought this. I only have like 2 pages filled out,
Oh, there
but
is nice. Ah,
3 pages filled out
ah, that's
right
good.
here,
Oh.
and then we got some here. So um, I was keeping them written in my like memo app
Right.
on my phone, but I was like, I want to actually write them out. So
It's
I got
more
a
stylish.
techo. It is indeed. All right, that's all I got for you guys. We have
Nice.
gone on long enough. I think it's
Subarashi. I won't
yeah,
clap too much because
way
of the
too long.
microphone, but
Go midnight, Marty. We can
absolutely. No,
cut
no,
this
no,
up
no,
into
no.
a part two if
No,
you
no,
want.
no, 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 no. I think we keep it as one long, very interesting lesson. What else to say? Thank you very much for today, to Domo, for this very interesting lesson on haiku. To anyone
Very
that
impromptu.
listened up to this point, we are very thankful for you to keep watching these videos. And see you next week with the Japanese episodes that will be about. I don't tell you because I have to discuss this with Domo.
Indeed, indeed. All right. That's all I got for you guys. If Marty has nothing else to say, I think we can go ahead and end it off with our regular
Soigi.
Swiggy.